Winter's coming.
Yeah.
Are you guaranteeing that the price cap will not be tampered with, abolished or lifted during this winter?
I've been very clear about this. The price cap is the biggest shield in terms of consumer prices. And I've said repeatedly that it will not be moved. It was set in August for the 6-month period between the 1st of October and the 1st of April, and it's not being moved. And I'd like to add, Trevor, that many companies during this period have said we should lift the price cap or get rid of it. And I've been very clear that it can't be moved because it does offer consumers the protection that we all need against very, very high upswings in the price.
All right, well, and for viewers watching, thing they'd be most concerned about, can you guarantee, give us a categorical assurance that the domestic supply will not be interrupted?
I think supply is critically important. And I've always said that we have never had a problem, certainly in the last many years, actually, with security of supply. And just for the sake of the viewers, it's important that we look at what the elements of supply are. If you look at where our gas is coming from, where it came from last year in 2020, 50% of that gas was UK continental shelf. It was from the UK. 30% was from Norway. And I spoke to the Norwegian Energy Minister only a couple of weeks ago, and they are increasing their production. And 20% comes from LNG, which is around the world through freight. I'm very committed and convinced that we will have full energy supply.
Yeah, but none of those words say you will have uninterrupted gas supplies during this winter.
I'm as certain as I could be, because obviously you know this is a global issue. So we've seen right across the world real supply chain pressures. You've seen the Chinese have power blackouts, they're rationing supply. Here in the UK, our job is to make sure there's minimal disruption. And I'm very confident that there will be...
yeah, but you don't know, do you? Because you didn't expect in January that you'd be sitting here with a 250% rise. I don't suppose you expected that Mr. Putin would be playing Mr. Putin-type games with the Nord Stream gas supply.
Sure.
You just don't know, do you?
Well, I can say that there are two things elements here. One is obviously the global price, and I can't predict, nobody can predict that. But one thing that I am responsible for is the resilience of the UK system. And in that, I'm very confident that we will be resilient. We'll have a diversity of gas supply, as I described. And also within the energy mix itself, the electricity generation itself, we've got renewables, we've got a slice of nuclear power as well. And we've got a range of energy sources which I think will be very resilient. OK,
can you give even that reassurance to commercial and industrial users?
Well, as you know, Trevor, I spoke very extensively with energy-intensive users industry on Friday. We've already, over the last few years, given lots of support on electricity, and we're on electricity pricing in particular, power. And we're speaking constantly with them to see if there's a way through it, and also engaging Treasury as well. I can't promise anything as yet, but we are absolutely focused on solving this problem.
When you say as yet, does that mean that you have gone to the Treasury to ask them for a subsidy of some description?
No, I haven't. We've already got subsidies in place, and it's very clear that a lot of those are working. We've subsidised something like £2 billion since 2013 for industry, heavy energy users, heavy industry. But we are constantly, as you would expect, in conversation with them to see where we can support.
Well, what are you talking to Treasury about? I mean, the head of UK Steel says this is a crisis. Production may have to be cut or stopped. What are you talking to the Treasury about to prevent that happening?
So, as I said, on the consumer side, we've got an energy price cap, and on the industry side, we've had measures where we support industry's heavy electricity users.
And there's absolutely no possibility of a price cap for industry?
No.
Can you be clear about that?
What I am very clear about is that we need to get through this situation. It's a difficult situation. Gas prices, electricity prices are at very high levels right across the world. And of course, I'm speaking with government colleagues, particularly in the Treasury, to try and see a way through this.
But the British Chambers of Commerce said yesterday that every company is in some way under threat. They the industries want a price cap for commercial, for, as you put it, intensive users. Why not a price cap of the same kind as you have for domestic users?
As I've said, we are talking all the time to industry about what the best way forward is. And clearly we recognise that this is a global problem. We've got very, very high gas prices, very high electricity prices. We already have supports in place for industries, and we're looking at ways that we can help industry.
They are going to find this pretty unsatisfactory, really. I mean, 12 companies have gone out of business in the energy sector since the beginning of the year, 9 in the last month alone. The other industries, chemicals, ceramics, glass, are all saying that unless somebody does something pretty soon, they will have to cut or cease productions. Simply saying we're talking is not reassuring.
It's important. So you mixed up two things here. The energy suppliers are going, some of them are going out of business. That happens every winter, by the way. Typically between 5 and 8 leave the market. This year, as you say, it's been more because of the high gas prices. And we're
nine
dealing with
since
that.
last month. That is qualitatively
and all
different.
of them, and all the customers in those companies have found new suppliers, because we've got a supplier of last resort, which is actually working pretty well. In relation to intensive users, industry, ceramics, chemicals, the industries you've mentioned, we are having a conversation, and we're trying to get a way to resolve this issue. I can't come on your programme and say that we're going to have a price cap, because we're trying to work out what the nature of that support might be.
But you're not saying no to a price cap?
I'm saying that we're in conversation. I spoke to them on Friday, and we totally understand the pressures they're under, and we want to come up with solutions.
Here's the problem about all of this, that pretty much everybody says that because of the spike in gas prices, and you yourself have been saying this, that we are talking about rises in prices of maybe up to £500 a year. How are people going to pay those bills? For example, the 6 million people who are on universal credit and had a £20 cut this week. I know you're giving local authorities 500 million to help that, but actually that works out at 85 quid a person, which is less than half the average rise in energy cost. It does not add up.
So there are other supports that we're giving as well. You're quite right to mention the fact that the Chancellor announced the 500 million that's going to be dispersed through local authorities. We've also got the warm home discount, which gives up to £140 per person. We also have the winter fuel payments, which are means tested, where people, most vulnerable people, can actually get support. So there are a number of ways we're looking at protecting the most vulnerable customers, and also the industry themselves recognise that there is an obligation to help people on prepayment meters and other vulnerable elderly customers this winter as well. So we're doing an awful lot, focusing on how we can support the most vulnerable people in our society.
All right, well, look, while you're talking and working out a solution and all the rest of it, are you advising people to wear another woolly jumper and get the socks out?
Well, it's up to people. I mean, it's amazing how people's cold threshold can be very different. I mean, some people feel comfortable wrapped up in lots of different clothes, others wear relatively little. I think people should be sensible. I think people should do what they feel comfortable with.
So would comfortable mean the energy minister says, why don't you turn down the thermostat a couple of degrees?
No, I'm not saying
and put on another woolly?
My job as an energy minister isn't to tell people, you know,
you could make a suggestion.
How many layers of clothing they should wear. That's not really my job. My job is to ensure security of supply, which I'm doing, and also to make sure that the rising costs, which we see globally, are minimised, and also to make sure that we have minimal disruption. That's what I'm focused on.
Well, look, I'm smiling about it, but it's not completely idiotic to say to people, a way in which you can help to lower the risk of cuts in power supplies this winter, is to reduce your use of energy. And that means wrapping up a bit more warmly, heating your house a tiny bit less.
I'm not going down that route. I think people are perfectly sensible users of energy. I think people understand what their use is, what their need is, and all I am guaranteeing, or attempting to guarantee, is security of supply, to make sure that we have a free-flowing energy system, and that's what we're focused on.